meditation, followed by his message titled The Power of Imagination.
Once again, good morning, everyone. It is my privilege to lead you in this time of guided meditation. So I invite you to begin by making yourself comfortable in your chair and allowing your mind and heart and body to embrace the idea of relaxing. Simply relax. I invite us to take a great big deep cleansing breath in and exhale, letting our shoulders drop a bit and our neck relax and our whole body. Simply being present to this moment. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, sweet Spirit, for this day. As we experience the gratitude for this privilege of living, let us be open to the Christ voice, the divine words that come to mind in this time that we have declared as our own. Simply listen for the words. Perhaps we hear how precious we are. Perhaps we experience the divine light within us. Be present to your highest, deepest self and simply listen. Perhaps an inspiration will come to mind. Possibly the experience of healing will occur. Today is our day, a day to hear this voice throughout. It is the voice of life within us. Let's follow it. Let's hear it and heed it as it guides us into a day of possibilities. Let us imagine a day rife with love. A day with sprinkles of joy throughout. Healing the past and readying us for a dynamic future. Just listen to the voice throughout this day. And as we bring our attention back to this time and place, let us do so imagining our companion of our voice throughout this day, guiding us, loving us, showing us the way to the best day ever today. And in the name and in the nature of the living Christ, we have declared it so, and so it is. Amen. It's good to see you all again today. I think one of the most fundamental and to me the greatest gift that Unity teachings have brought, at least to me, is that of the idea of the God within. Right here, standing in front of you, sitting in front of me. Not one out there that I need to please or that I must follow a certain set of rules or principles, but one in here that has empowered me and you beyond our imagination. And that is what unity is referring to when we refer to the Christ within, the power of God and the presence of God within each and every one of us. And by means of that infinite power, instead of a God out there, we determine our punishment and our reward by how we live our life and how we think. Here's how Dr. Emily Cady puts it in Lessons in Truth. She says, "We have believed that we were helped and comforted by others, that we receive joy from outside circumstances and surroundings, but it is not so. All the joy and strength and good spring up from a fountain within one's own being. And if we only knew this truth," she says, "we would know that because God is in us as the fountain of which springs all of our good, all of our power. Nothing that anyone does or says or fails to do can take away our joy or good." It says it right there on page 8 of Lessons in Truth. Great book. We get to decide. We get to decide how fulfilling our lives are, what path we'll take. You might say, well, imagine that. That's what I say. Imagine that. In his book, The 12 Powers of Man, of course, man referring to humankind, Charles Fillmore reminds us and calls the second coming of Christ, that we've heard so much in our culture, the second coming, as simply the awakening of that power that is within us. That's the second coming. When we realize, oh yeah, baby, I got it. I got it. I trust you're all here familiar, or most of you are familiar with the 12 powers that he has he says this power within us is broken down into 12 different aspects of our being. Life, imagination, power itself, judgment, understanding, zeal, elimination, faith, love, order, will, and strength. Today I'll be talking about imagination. I think one of the most powerful powers we have, or at least one that I use in a way that really impacts my life. He says it's the faculty of mind that images and forms, the power to shape and form thought with our imagination. We lay hold of ideas, and then we clothe them in substance. So we make our ideas a real experience right here and right now. And I think we're consistently using our imagination to do, as Emily Cady stated, to bring forth our strength and our good. But I'll also add that sometimes I use my imagination to bring forth my fear and my eliminations and my limitations. In Unity, we say we experience our life by means of how we respond to events and circumstances. What happens to me doesn't create my life, right? It's how I respond to it. I always have that choice. And it is through the imagination, that powerful, powerful force, that the formless, that which does not exist, takes form. I'd like to share a story with you that I'll bet some of you have experienced. I know I have. So imagine, if you would, it's your daughter or granddaughter's or your niece's 6th birthday, and you purchase for her the best gift ever. It's this humongous dollhouse. It's beautiful. Comes in this huge box. And you're so excited. You put it up here and you wrap it exquisitely, and it's so big that it takes like 2 wraps of wrapping paper, so you match the patterns. You ever done that? Huh? So nobody can see the seam. I mean, you put this bow on that picks up all the colors in it, and you're excited. You could see her tearing into it and loving it, and nothing's happened. This hasn't happened yet. This gift is miles away from its recipient. It's days away from this recipient. and you're already experiencing all the joy. That's imagination. That's imagination. So, it's a reminder we have to be careful what we're imagining, right? Because it can go the other way too. If we give form to the formless, that's what we mean by that. Nothing has happened yet. Your granddaughter, niece hasn't received it. It's still in your house. You're looking at it though, and every time you see it, you go, yeah, she's going to love it. You've done that, haven't you? And our imagination is automatic. Whether we're imagining joy or pain that we don't have time for anymore, it becomes our experience. Charles Fillmore said, with our imagination, we lay hold of ideas and clothe them with substance. The clothing them with substance is when they become, yeah, I'm experiencing it, even though it's not even happening. So, the big day comes, and you walk in with this, you're proud because you know you've got the perfect gift for this wonderful child. And she saves it for last because it's so big, and she takes out the bow and she rips off the paper and help her get the box open, and you slide out this beautiful, beautiful dollhouse. I mean, it's perfect. Really costly too, but it's worth it because it's for her. And with that, she crawls into that big box and she says, "Oh, thank you for my new home." And she finds a crayon and she starts drawing windows and doors inside the big box. And she's so happy. And now our imagination begins to kind of work against us a little bit, you might say. And so she's not getting it how it ought to be. So we demonstrate to her how neat this house really is. Oh, look, sweetie, there's little people in here. And oh, see, the doors open and close, and there's a puppy. Oh my goodness, there's even a little toilet in the bathroom. Isn't that fun? And the child, nestled in the box, looks up at us and says, "Do you want to come into my new home with me?" Imagination colors and shapes our experiences in the future, in the present, and in the past. So now maybe we're imagining ourselves as, oh man, what did I do? Maybe we judge ourselves for spending so much money on a box, but there's no need for that. Imagination is the ability to see something that's not really there as that child did. Who'd have thought that that was a wonderful little place to play? She's so comfortable there. Imagination brings our ideas into form and into our experiences as it did with her. So, can you see how important it is to really be cognizant about what we're imagining? What have you been imagining this morning about your day? Maybe about a relationship or anything. Imagination shapes and colors our life. Imagination is the ability to place objects in new relationships as our child did with a box. We see the box as something that holds the perfect gift, right? The child sees the box as the perfect gift. Imagination brings form to ideas. So, you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, how do you imagine your body? You stand there and say, I am the perfect demonstration of health and happiness. Now, up north here, you probably all do that. Down south where I live, sometimes there's some doubt. Sometimes we look at ourselves, we say, oh, I'm way too fat, I'm way too skinny, I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too young, I'm too old. But whatever I imagine is my experience. Our imagination is like the mental scissors in which we cut out what we're going through. And the way we use those mental scissors, our imagination creates the experience of our body and our life. I remember when I was much younger, I used to really think of myself as fat. Okay? But I see pictures of myself when I was younger, I wasn't fat. But in my mind, in my imagination, I was. I have a story I'd like to share with you. His name is Brian Espy. Brian started drinking at the age of 11. He did so to escape the experience of an abusive alcoholic mother. His mother would take him and his brother to various churches looking for handouts. And when I was a minister at Unity of Woodstock, we used to have people come in and do that. They were kind of regulars. Every couple months, they'd come in with their kids. They'd say, my kids need medicine, looking for handouts. He started drinking to numb the experience because he could not imagine any other outcome than he was experiencing. He couldn't see it. By the time he was a freshman in high school, he was drinking daily to dull the pain of his life. A friend's mom convinced him to attend a juvenile drug and alcohol rehabilitation program at a local center. You see, she could imagine Brian as something more than a troubled kid. She could see more than that. After 30 days, he began to see other possibilities. Now he could imagine himself differently. But his mom picks up and moves to another state. At 14 years of age, he and his brother, his mom kicked him out of the house. And Brian lived on the streets of Albuquerque, New Mexico. He still attended school, did some odd jobs, stole some, and drank every day. He would walk the streets of Albuquerque and he'd look into homes of windows. He'd look into homes that he passed, catching glimpses of families inside, crying out, "Oh God, why can't I have a family? And that's all I want." So he was imagining himself as being part of a family. He once again found a 12-step group, and he was the angry loner with dirty clothes and stringy hair who didn't say much in the group. After a few weeks, one of the men there wisely said to him, "If you open up, we'll buy you something to eat." Well, he was hungry, so he talked. Eventually, some of the men even tried to adopt Brian. But the judge located his mother and sent him back to live with her. Mistake. He ran away so many times that he was sent to a juvenile retention center. And that's where he met Terry, a former Marine Corps drill sergeant and a recovering alcoholic. Terry took him in and gave him a daily word. Brian had a daily word assignment every day. If the message for the day was living in the present moment, he had to write a page on how he lived in the present moment today. See, Terry imagined Brian living a full life. He could see it. There's a lot more to this story, but in the end, Brian became married, had a son and daughter, became a successful executive flying all over the world on business. Brian's life, like yours and mine, was the product of his imagination directing him. At times to destructive behavior, because it's all he could see. It's all he can imagine for himself. And at times to recovery and health as he imagined himself, part of a family. Your life, I suggest to you, and my life, and the life of this ministry, are all products of our individual and collective imaginations at work. What are you imagining? What are you imagining about a new minister here? I've been around churches long enough where I know some people are imagining, yeah, this is really cool. Some may feel a little threatened because they have some independence, without a minister. It's all normal, all fine. But what are you imagining for yourself for this ministry? Often when we say we've been thinking about a problem, we really mean we've been imagining about a problem, imagining outcomes. Do we imagine our problems as obstacles or as gateways into something new? I'll invite you all, think of an issue you're dealing with today. Most of us have them. Reflect on a problem in your life, something you want to be different than at its current state. What have you been imagining about it? Have you been using your imagination to resolve the problem or to magnify it? And I'm talking to me here too. What have I been using my imagination to do? Resolve or magnify? I recently found myself using my imagination to magnify how busy I was. Oh man, there's so much to do. I've got to do this. I really need a new computer. We're just finishing up remodeling the home. I was going on and on. I was imagining myself. And I've reached a stage of enlightenment where I catch myself now. I'm not so enlightened that I don't have those thoughts. Maybe some of you are. But I still have them, and now I catch myself. And I say, well, why don't I just put everything I need to do in my calendar and schedule it, and I'll be done with it. Done. I wasn't overwhelmed anymore. I wasn't too busy. See, we use our imagination to resolve a problem when we imagine ourselves moving and being beyond the problem, and using our imagination to see ourselves overcoming the obstacles we face and turning them into gateways of possibility. We use our imagination to magnify the problem when we focus on the obstacles that lie before us and imagine them stopping us. Oh, I'm so busy, I don't know what to do. Come on, Tom. I think we use and whichever way we lean, resolving or magnifying is where we're going to go, unless we catch ourselves, if we're not careful. And that will be our clear, undeniable experience as we clothe those ideas with substance. I really thought I was too darn busy. I really did. I clothed that idea with substance, with the experience of that idea. We use our imagination backward if we visualize all the challenges and obstructions first. That's the dream killer way of thinking. I'd really like to do something. Oh yeah, but you got this and this and that. That's our imagination working against us. In the book, The Success Principles, Jack Canfield says, you have control over only 3 things in your life. The thoughts you think, the images you visualize, and the actions you take or your behavior. How we visualize ourselves handling our life, how we imagine ourselves handling life is how we'll experience it. It's got to be that way. Someone once said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. I think we're always creating our future by means of our imagination. Predict your future by using your imagination to create what you want. Because imagination is the ability to see something that isn't even there yet. I suggest to you neither a constructive or destructive future is here. They are in the future. And we create our future by means of what we visualize for ourselves, by what we imagine. Change your thinking, change your life. You've all heard that statement, right? I think what we're really saying is change what you are imagining and change your life, because our imagination always fulfills itself. Stephen Covey reminded us to live out of our imagination, not our history. If I imagine from my history, if I'm looking at something, pain maybe that's part of my history, that will be my future. If Brian Espy had lived out of his history, I think he'd be dead now. But his imagining himself as part of a family, imagining something better than this, propelled him to a pretty healthy future. So in conclusion, I'll say we are blessed that we are blessed to believe in not a God of judgment out there that punishes and rewards, but one in here that empowers us to imagine our lives to its limits. And as Emily Cady said, all the joy and strength and good spring up from a fountain within one's own being, within you and within me. And our imagination is the power behind that fountain. Brian Espy clothed both his destructive and constructive ideas with substance. How about you and how about me? What ideas are we clothing with substance by means of our imagination? We have control over three things in our life: the thoughts we think, the images we visualize, and the actions we take. Our imagination influences all of those. Use your imagination to bring color and shape and form to your life, the color and shape and form that you want. This week, throughout the week, every day, let's commit to being aware of what we're imagining. What am I seeing here? What am I thinking is out there? Be careful what you imagine about the past, too. I can kind of be hard on myself, imagining something I did wrong. Don't need to go there. What we are focusing on, what we are imagining for our life, what we're imagining for the life of this ministry will guide us into the next steps we take. Let's imagine what we want, because we have the power in us to make it happen. My last statement is: imagine what you desire, and your life will move in that direction. God bless. Thank you, everyone, and namaste. Thank you.